Welcome to the Flourishing Journey podcast as we facilitate a series called the AHA Leader. This series is dedicated to school leaders who are courageous enough to look in the mirror and curious enough to keep growing. Every leader has blind spots, those unseen areas that quietly shape our decisions, influence our teams, and affect our school culture in ways we don't always realize. Yet awareness brings clarity, and clarity brings growth. In each episode, we'll uncover common leadership blind spots, those hidden habits, assumptions, and patterns that may be holding us back. Together, we'll turn those blind spots into aha moments that lead to greater wisdom, stronger teams, and more flourishing schools. I'm your host, Rachael Jones, as I collaborate with Dr. Edward Bunn by inviting you to lean in, look deeper, and lead with fresh vision. Hello, flourishing practitioners. Welcome to the 6th episode of a 9-episode leader series on recognizing blind spots and making appropriate adjustments. Today's episode is called The Open Door Illusion, where we discover how to move beyond the typical "my door is always open" promise to truly creating an environment where people feel safe, heard, and encouraged to speak openly. Hello again, Edward.
Well, hey, Rachel, and hello, listeners. I'm really excited about this topic today because I would often say this as a leader. I have an open door, but I also had to learn how to do this well.
Yes, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to share on this topic because I too have heard the phrase, probably used it as well myself, or many times have heard the reach out to me if you need anything. But I have always wondered, is that actually true? Or, I kind of hesitated because I didn't want to feel like a nuisance. So I would love to hear your insights on this more. So let's just start with many leaders do say this. They say, I have an open door, but others are still hesitant to walk through that open door. Why do you think that happens?
Yes, good starting question here. I think a leader can sincerely believe they have an open door, but the people around them may experience something totally different. And that gap, I think it often comes down to maybe emotions or perceptions, even power dynamics, past experiences. So let's just draw out from the power gap, for example. Even I think the kindness leaders will occupy positions of authority, and sometimes that authority can create hesitation. People naturally wonder, if I share this concern, will I be seen as negative? Will it impact maybe future opportunities? Will I be labeled difficult? So the open door might be physically open, right? But practically it doesn't feel low risk. I think the second thing here is maybe many team members have past experiences, either with previous direct reports or earlier moments in the same organization, where speaking up didn't go well, right? So maybe feedback was dismissed. Maybe it led to tension, or maybe nothing changed as a result. So those experiences tend to linger. And as they do, they teach people that going through the door might not really be worth it. And then maybe the last thing is just, sometimes the door exists in theory, but the leader's body language, the leader's schedule, maybe the leader's tone communicates something very different. So a leader maybe says, come anytime, but they appear rushed, they appear distracted, or even slightly irritated. And this sends a conflicting message. People pick up on those subtle cues, and so ultimately, the hesitation often isn't about the leader's intention. It's about the culture of response when you say, "My door is always open."
That's true. And, what you shared, we all come with our own experiences. We all come with our own perceptions. And so, as well-meaning as a leader may be when they say, I have this open door, many of us may be hesitant to actually believe that because of our past experiences or our perceptions.
Absolutely.
So, understanding that, then, how
Yeah.
can leaders truly create an environment where people feel safe to share honest feedback?
Yeah, I think feedback is so important. So, people feel safe when they experience, I think, two things on a consistent basis. So predictability and what I would say positive consequence. So, leaders build that by practicing a few key behaviors, key leadership behaviors. So first, feedback, needs to be normalized in an organization. It needs to be a part of culture, not treated as a one-time event or I'm seeking feedback today, but so when leaders regularly ask question like, what's one thing I can improve on, or maybe, what's something we should adjust, they signal that feedback is a part of everyday work. It's not a crisis moment, if you will. So I think another thing too is leaders can practice non-defensive listening. Even if the feedback stings or maybe feels unfair, a leader's facial expression, tone, maybe immediate response, they really matter here. So a simple calm, thank you, or tell me more, or tends to do more to build that safety than any policy or slogan ever could. Let's see. I think one more, leaders need to act on what they hear. Even small actions like adjusting a process or communicating a quick change or explaining why something can't change. It shows people that their voice matters. And, we all know that nothing kills safety faster than feedback kind of disappearing into this black hole where there's no action, no communication. And so, allowing that feedback and our response to that feedback is so critical.
So you shared some great tips for getting feedback and just creating an environment where that's just natural part of the school or the organization to just constantly be open to that feedback. But can you unpack for me some more practical ways that leaders can turn the idea of an open door into an actual practice of open dialogue?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I've had to learn as a leader over time because I was that one that said the cliche, I have an open door policy, but I didn't know really what that meant until I got into it happening day in and day out on a practical measure. So first of all, it's an active posture that we have to take as leaders. It's not a passive policy. And so I think one thing that I've learned is just being proactive in our outreach as a leader. So maybe instead of waiting for people to come to us, go to them, walk the hallways, sit in team meetings, join informal conversations. I think our presence communicates that we're accessible. And so I would try to become better at just being visible and present, not always engaging verbally, but just being seen so that they know that I am approachable and accessible as a leader. And I think the second component to a good practice when you have an open door policy is just, scheduled listening. What I mean by that is add recurring time in the calendar, monthly or quarterly, just for open dialogue. Call them listening sessions if you want to, one-on-ones, check-ins. But when listening is scheduled, it becomes part of the culture instead of just a one-off scenario. Um, another thing that I learned is to ask better questions. So, I would replace, does anyone have feedback, with this more general, with questions that open the door even wider. So, what's one thing that's getting in your way? Maybe where are we overcomplicating things? Maybe what should I start, stop, or continue doing? And so just asking those better questions, deeper questions, open the door wider. Um, I think specific questions tend to lower that barrier to entry. We know that intuitively that open dialogue is built through behavior and not just slogans. I have an open door.
Yeah, that's so true. And I love the intentionality that you're talking about, where the responsibility shifts from the leader just having an open door and putting responsibility on others to come to them, to what you were sharing, which is to actively, intentionally go, be present, ask questions, find ways that as a leader we can support others around us rather than putting the responsibility on them to come to us.
Yeah.
Um, so as we wrap this up, I would just love for you to reflect on maybe an example of a time when a leader successfully shifted from the illusion of openness to truly genuine two-way communication.
Oh yeah, this is an easy one because I can still remember it vividly. One school leader that I worked with believed deeply in their open door policy, but I would say very few people actually came to this particular leader. They were approachable and genuinely kind, but the team felt there wasn't space to be honest, to be candid, to be open, and but there was a turning point, and this was neat to see in this learning journey or leadership journey. It came when the leader held a voluntary kind of listening session with others. And only a few staff members actually showed up that first listening session, but they did share something very significant. It kind of went along the lines of, we know that your door is open, but we don't want to interrupt you. You always look so busy, even stressed. We're not sure if our concerns will add additional pressure. This was neat. It was instead of getting defensive at that moment, this particular leader kind of paused and said, thank you. And I didn't realize I was sending that message. So help me understand, where it feels hardest to speak up, because I want to be a better leader. And I want to listen well, and I want to hear your thoughts. And I think it was in that moment that it kind of just opened up the floodgates. It was not with criticism, but it was honesty and transparency. And staff just kind of shared that they didn't want to disappoint this leader, but that they had feared appearing negative, and that previous leaders, kind of added some negative consequences to sharing at this type of level. So, but I think the shift, to close this out, it came from humility. It came from intentional structure. Hey, I'm going to have a listening session. But it also came from a genuine willingness to act on what the team shared with them.
That's a great example, and I think it helps need to really think through too. Sometimes we'll test the waters and whether we're, test whether this leader really is open to that feedback. And it sounds like this leader did, and others tested the waters and gave honest feedback. And because of this leader's response, of just like you said, humility and a willingness to really listen and to make some changes, probably, as you said, open the floodgates because people went, oh, okay, they tested the waters, it was safe. Maybe he truly does mean my door is always open and they
Yeah.
can come and give honest feedback. So, yeah, great example, great reminder to be humble when people come and give you honest feedback, because that may be the only time they're going to do it if they don't get a positive response. Well, thank you so much, Edward, for journeying with us today around the importance of creating an environment where people feel safe, heard, and encouraged to speak openly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Rachel. These aha moments at times can appear small, but in reality, they have a big impact in our organization. So, a joy to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, join us next month where we continue our leadership series with episode 7 called Quiet Isn't Always Healthy, where we consider ways leaders can listen beyond the silence to uncover hidden disengagement, misalignment, or burnout. Until next time.
This episode was part of a 9-part series called The Aha Leader, uncovering common leadership blind spots and turning them into aha moments that lead to greater wisdom, stronger teams, and more flourishing schools. Catch every episode of this series and the entire Flourishing Journey podcast at acsi.org/podcasts.